Hi friends, welcome back to Little Wattle, and if you're new here, thank you for stopping by today. I'm going to be doing an outfit change on this little reborn dolly, and I'm going to address some things that have recently surfaced in the reborn doll community whilst I was absent. Oh, look at this little cutie pie. I love this little chunker-munker. She's so gorgeous. This is Charlotte Octavia Peaches. She is the Peaches sculpt by Cassie Brace. She's a sold-out limited edition kit, and she was reborn by Hannah Stanley of My Reborn Nursery. Here is the COA. I'll just bring it up to the camera. So this is limited edition 1487 out of 1800. You can see it's been signed by Cassie Brace. Look at all those beautiful prototypes on the front there. And then there's some information on the back about supporting our sculptors and to purchase authentic sculpts. And if you'd like to find out more about the reborn artist who was responsible for creating this doll, there are her contact details. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a long one. I've got a bit to discuss, so grab your favourite beverage. I'm trying to drink more water because it's spring now in Australia. I'm trying to up my water with the weather getting a little bit warmer. So grab your beverage of choice, sit back whilst I address this topic. So I briefly mentioned in a video two ago when I finally came back onto YouTube creating content, I briefly mentioned how disappointing it was to hear that during my absence, you know, the dolly war has resurfaced in the community about authentic versus replica. Now, let's start off by putting some things into perspective. There's always going to be two sides to an argument, but like the old saying goes, sometimes you just have to agree to disagree to keep the peace. And it can also mean having enough emotional intelligence to scroll on and move on with your day when you see something triggering online. For example, in the reborn hobby, some people collect dolls for art, whilst others collect for mental health and emotional or comfort reasons. Likewise, some people prefer to support authentic reborn kits and reborn art, whilst others are quite satisfied with owning the cheaper replica reborn manufactured products. Some collectors and reborn artists prefer kits that are made from German vinyl, whilst others don't care where their products are made. Some people think it's wrong to purchase replica products, whilst others see no issue and they believe that it's the responsibility of the owner of that product to protect their work properly with the appropriate intellectual property. That's life. There's always going to be this division, a difference of opinion. Where the issue lies is when certain toxic individuals in this hobby take things too far in the name of their cause. Educating consumers about the reborn hobby, it can be really effective if it's done properly. However, during all the years I've been collecting reborn dolls, I am yet to see the reborn doll police do anything positively to promote the reborn doll hobby or proactively solve what I call the real issues around replica dolls and kits. And I'm not really seeing much what I would call effective education happening. In fact, all I see is cyberbullying, which is not only unacceptable on a number of different levels, it's completely ineffective in solving the substantial problems with replica products. And let's not forget, cyberbullying is a crime, it's illegal. Do you know, it was recently brought to my attention that in the last 5 years, 5 people in the reborn community have committed suicide because of the constant bullying from certain individuals from the reborn doll police. In one of those cases, the reborn doll police continued to publicly bully the person even after they had died. Their family members who were preparing for the funeral, and obviously still very much grieving, had to reach out to those disgusting individuals, begging them to stop with their vicious nonsense. Now, this type of behaviour, it's just so disgusting and so vile on so many levels. And I've heard of countless other stories, equally as evil, where certain individuals in the reborn community were targeted, their family members were targeted, often through their work. Some went as far as contacting someone's animal vet to target them, all because a select group of disgusting individuals in the reborn community who, let's face it, are not really genuinely championing the replica cause for the sculptors, but are using it as an excuse to bully and destroy others. So let's take a moment to put this into perspective. This is vinyl. These are dolls. And there are certain toxic individuals who think that cyberbullying select individuals in the online community over these dolls is somehow going to stop the mass production of these dolls in China. Let's just sit on that a moment. They think by doing that is going to stop the mass production of these dolls in China. Honestly, that is about the dumbest thought process ever. Like, seriously, the stupid is strong. Fighting over dolls like a bunch of 3-year-olds is not only childish, it's first world problems. Not to mention that it is completely ineffective in combating the real issues with replica reborn products. In fact, I have seen the complete opposite happen, where YouTube viewers will watch certain reborn doll police videos. They will take offence to their superior attitude and then out of spite will go and purchase a replica doll. And I've seen it happen so often. So clearly the current approach is actually having a detrimental effect and is not winning the war on replica dolls and replica kits. Oh, look how scrumptious she looks. Oh my goodness, what a little cutie pie. She's so adorable. What a cute little chunky monkey. Yes, you are. You are just so cute. Now, like I've said many, many times before on my channel, dictating to consumers on how they should spend their money will not be well received by the masses, whereas educating consumers about the reborn hobby, explaining to them the quality of the art and what time and creativity goes into these dolls, that would be much better received. And you know what? A really good place to start is to be more welcoming to newcomers, because I hate to say this, but there are many pockets of the reborn community that are not very welcoming. If you want this craft to continue and to grow in the future as a community, we need to actually be friendly and welcoming to newcomers and to not treat them like first-class idiots. And for those using the moral high ground as an excuse to behave in a nasty and toxic way, supposedly in support of the sculptor's art, well, that's unacceptable. when it's taken too far, because in the eyes of the law, in plain and simple terms, you are cyberbullying. And there is truly no excuse for that sick behaviour. Like, seriously, do better, go and get a job, do some volunteer work, and get some life goals. Because honestly, when you behave that way, you look like a complete loser. Now, unfortunately, there are some misinformed, uneducated people in the reborn community who use the argument that certain sculptors shouldn't need to protect their work properly and that taking out the appropriate intellectual property rights won't fix the replica problem. And they automatically assume that when a sculptor's work has been copied, that it's been stolen. Now, this type of uneducated ignorance is seriously embarrassing, and my intention is to address it and other types of misinformation. For example, the limitations of the Berne Convention, and I'll do that in a separate video in the future. On a more positive note, at least it's refreshing that it's now come to the point where the silent majority in the reborn community, the silent majority is coming together as a whole and collectively stepping up a lot more often now to expose this ugly nonsense and to start making an example of those who choose to behave inappropriately. And look, what do I mean by inappropriate behaviour? I'm going to talk more about cyberbullying later in this video. Now, I watched a video recently, and this individual has a well-known reputation in the reborn community for bullying others who do not agree with her opinions. And it was so refreshing, I have to say, to hear this person discussing in their video how the silent majority called her out on her recent nonsense. The cancel culture is real, and the silent majority, they're simply not tolerating the reborn doll police nonsense anymore. Those days of bullying people out of the community, they are long over. So whilst it is disappointing to discover the division in the reborn community has recently resurfaced again, more concerning is that certain individuals are being targeted, me being one of them. I'm now going to take a detour and we'll be following up with some general housekeeping to remind viewers of the rules I have on my channel so that it's always the warm and welcoming place that you love and enjoy coming to. Now, I want to reassure all my loyal viewers, you know who you are, you know how much I love you, and what I will say later in this video, that's not directed at you. It's directed at a certain individual and whoever else they are planning to recruit to cause trouble. And I can guarantee when you find out the reason for this individual targeting me, because I'm going to show you the receipts later in this video, you will agree that this toxic behaviour is unacceptable. Honestly, with what I have to deal with outside of YouTube, with my work commitments and my family responsibilities, I just shake my head at all this superficial nonsense because honestly, it's first world problems. If this is all certain individuals have to worry about in their daily life, you know what? Life's going pretty good for them. As my regular viewers already know, this year, work-wise, has really ramped up for me. So it's been an absolute luxury for me to have spare time to enjoy my doll hobby. But when I do, you know, it's joyful to be able to sit in my little corner of YouTube and share all the fun and happiness I receive from doll collecting with my loyal group of friends on my channel. And that's exactly why I have zero interest in doll politics or the division that plays out in the doll community, because my life is super busy outside of YouTube. And when I do have time to come and play with my dolls, it's like my sanctuary. it's a place where I can simply share my love of dolls and my knowledge of the doll hobby, because let's face it, I've been doll collecting for over 40 plus years, and during that time, I've gained a lot of useful knowledge to share with others who are equally as interested in learning about this amazing hobby. So, under normal circumstances, I don't get involved in doll politics, even though a number of people have recently contacted me asking me to address certain topics from a professional perspective. However, given now that it's been brought to my attention that I'm being targeted by a certain individual, I'm now left with no other choice but to now address some things. So far in the video, you've heard me mention the word a couple of times, perspective. So everything now I'm going to discuss from this point forward is tied to two key words: perception and perspective. How we are perceived by others and how we put things into proper perspective. So let me first move on to discussing some housekeeping rules on my channel. It's pretty simple. There are two rules. First rule, everyone's welcome here. Second rule, we're kind to one another. Now, here's a list of actions that are going to be taken if you target or cyberbully me. If you start causing any trouble on any of my online platforms, you're going to be publicly outed. If you start recruiting other people to do your dirty work, you and them will be publicly outed. And if you character assassinate me in online forums and discuss plans to target me, you will be reported to the relevant authorities. And I'm going to discuss more on that shortly. I have zero tolerance for gutless online trolls and keyboard warriors who go around cyberbullying people. If you don't like my channel, my content, jog on. Nobody is forcing you to be here. This isn't an airport, so you don't have to announce your departure. At my channel, we have fun with our dolls. So you just need to take your stupid doll nonsense elsewhere, because it's not welcome here. In plain and simple terms, do not come for me, because there's going to be consequences. Now, the troublemaker who is targeting me, they made a huge mistake and misjudged exactly who they were dealing with. Another thing working in my favour is that this individual is from Australia, and so that makes it so much easier to have their nonsense shut down. And that leads on to discussing one of the key words in this video: perception. As I mentioned earlier in this video, there's been a major shift in the reborn doll hobby during, say, the last 4 to 5 years. And what the reborn doll police have failed to realise is that the silent majority in this hobby do not perceive them or their behaviour in a favourable manner. The reborn doll police have also failed to understand that there is now a very diverse group of highly successful, well-educated doll collectors who have gravitated into the reborn doll hobby in recent years, who have zero interest in schoolyard, childish bullying nonsense. People who actually have a brain in their head to think with and are not going to follow nonsense foolishly like sheep. Professional, well-educated people who actually know quite a lot about business operations, manufacturing, and the likes, etc. Personally, in my case, both my husband and I, we're highly educated people. We have more than one university degree, and together we have over 35 years of experience in the fields of finance, accounting, law, intellectual property, manufacturing, security, intelligence, and criminology. And in our respective jobs, we also have official obligations to report to our workplace security unit any suspicious or harassment type behaviour, including cyberbullying, and that also includes any inappropriate or offensive online content and image-based abuse directed towards us or our family. So you can now see where this is leading to, can't you? So when this individual recently made some inappropriate comments on my channel, and then shortly afterwards I was provided with the receipts that this individual has admitted in a private forum that she has not only been targeting me online, but admits that she's in the process of information gathering. Well, that now raises the issue, what does this individual intend to do next? What are their intentions? Based on this individual's admission and the long history of what's gone down in the past in the reborn community in regards to cyberbullying, both my husband and I have recently met with our respective security units and the reporting process has commenced. Now, not only were our security units provided with information relating to me being potentially targeted as an individual, they were also provided with background information like a history of events about how others in the online reborn community and their families have been targeted and cyberbullied by a select group of individuals that have been dubbed the Reborn Doll Police. Key names of repeat offenders who have publicly cyberbullied others were provided, as well as some appropriate receipts as evidence to back it up. So each security unit, both at my work and my husband's work, they have a very clear picture of what's been going on in the community over, the past, say, decade. So moving forward, if this troublemaker at any point decides to escalate their actions towards me, my husband, or my family, and they do anything that falls under the cyberbullying definition umbrella, we now have the appropriate records in place to start basically escalating action from our end. Let's get one thing straight. Cyberbullying is a crime and it's illegal in Australia, and we have very strong laws in place to protect individuals from cyberbullying. And the Australian government also takes it really seriously with a number of key agencies responsible for managing it. So not only do my husband and I, as regular Australian citizens, have the ability to be able to draw upon the strong laws available in each Australian state and territory, we also have the extra benefit that it's prioritised because of our work. And do not assume that if you live in a different country that these consequences do not apply, because it can, through Interpol and various watch lists. You won't be laughing if a sheriff turns up to your home to have a chat with you about inappropriate online behaviour. So I'm making it very clear. Do not waste your time coming to my channel ranting about the Reborn Doll Police nonsense or going around the online community character assassinating me. Your reborn doll nonsense will not be tolerated. And if you target me or my husband or my family, both my husband and I and the organisations that we work for will action the appropriate consequences, which is the full force of the law. I'm now going to place up on screen the screenshot of a post that was taken from a Facebook private group page. You will see from the screenshot that it only took 1 hour for this post to come to my attention. And this is because this post was actually copied and plastered all over social media. And various people who are familiar with my online content immediately recognised that I was one of the targets and brought it to my attention because they could clearly see that this individual was spreading lies to support their own agenda. Now, at this point in time, because they haven't publicly named me, I won't out them, But if they proceed with anything further, I'll have no hesitations in publicly outing it. I'll just make that very clear right from the start. Now, this individual told thousands of people in a forum that I said that sculptors are making a fast buck by having their kits produced in China instead of Germany, and that a company called Joy Doll sell the mother moulds onto other factories in China. She was also suggesting that she was gathering information on me and others who apparently support replicas. Now, this individual is actually in a lot of trouble because that's not what I said in the video. It's not accurate. And I actually have evidence to prove it, a video. And I suggest that this individual actually go back and re-watch the video that they were so triggered by and get their facts straight before running their mouth around the community, because given they are an Australian citizen, I can actually take legal action if they publicly link my name to their lies. Now, for transparency, I'm going to address the inaccuracies in this person's statement. To give some context, in one of my Reborn doll box openings, I was speaking very favourably about the German vinyl that Reborn doll was made from. And this was my first Reborn doll in my collection made from that specific type of German vinyl. Well, completely made from that vinyl. I've got another doll that's a hybrid doll that has limbs made from that vinyl, but not a complete doll. Now, this German vinyl comes under the Little Dreams collection, which is manufactured by a Reborn supply company called Pappentrommelen in Germany. Now, I actually have 3 Reborn dolls in my collection made from German vinyl and many other types of dolls, because I don't just collect Reborn dolls. I've got many other types of dolls that are made from German vinyl, but this specific German vinyl that I was showcasing when I did this box opening, it was really outstanding quality, and I told my viewers so. And this is what I believed triggered this individual. This individual, for some reason, could not emotionally cope with the fact that I was speaking favourably about this German vinyl manufactured by Pappentrommelen. I collect all kinds of different dolls, many of which I haven't even showcased on my channel yet. I have 22 authentic Reborn art dolls in my collection that range from budget right up to high-end prototype dolls painted by highly skilled prototype master artists in my collection. As I said before, I have 3 Reborn dolls made from German vinyl, and the rest of my Reborn dolls are made from Chinese vinyl. My Reborn doll collection alone is insured for more than $20,000. Girl, don't play me with your nonsense that I don't support authentic Reborn art, because I have all the receipts to prove that I support authentic art. Let's just get that first thing straight. Furthermore, as much as I love authentic Reborn art and personally support purchasing authentic Reborn art, I will never support the Reborn doll police and their bullying behaviour, because what they do is so disgusting and vile. I want no association with them. I simply do not care what other people choose to have in their doll collection, and quite frankly, it's none of my business, and it's none of the Reborn doll police's business either. Now, let's get the second thing straight. I've been in the doll collecting hobby for over 40 plus years. I've been collecting dolls many decades longer than this toxic individual. I have vinyl dolls in my collection that have been made from all around the world. Some of those dolls are rare and vintage. So during the course of my doll collecting, I've actually learnt quite a lot about vinyl. There are actually many of us in the wider doll community. Yes, there is actually a doll community outside the reborn community. So there is many of us in the wider doll community, including myself, who have discussed the various quality issues with vinyl made in China. Issues like POX. Now, serious vintage doll collectors, those who have collected dolls, particularly during the 70s and 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we've had to educate ourselves about the materials used to make various dolls. And so we actually know something about vinyl, including polyvinyl chloride or, PVC, and the issues that only came from certain factories in China because of the way they chose to manufacture their products. There's actually so much information in the wider doll community, in the vintage doll community on this topic, that not only could these vinyl issues be narrowed down to the country of China, but to specific factories. And people who collect, say, CPK dolls and strawberry shortcake dolls, you know where I'm going with this. Furthermore, serious doll collectors like myself, we're well educated about the history of dolls. We have decades of experience collecting all kinds of different dolls from all around the world. And history tells us that Germany, France, and some other European countries, they have a rich history of producing quality dolls and quality doll products. So in a nutshell, it is well perceived in the greater doll community that quality dolls generally come from Europe and the cheaper ones from China. And this is precisely why I, like many others in the doll hobby, we enjoy collecting dolls made from German vinyl. So to this individual who takes offence to that, I say tough buns. I'm not changing my opinion because you think you can bully me otherwise. So let's get another thing straight. At no point have I ever said that Joy Dolls, that this company Joy Dolls sell their mother molds onto other factories in China. Up until seeing this individual's post, I, like many others in the community, had no idea that Joy Doll was the main factory supplier for reborn kits in China. We've only ever seen it referred to as the original factory. So to this individual, thank you so much for bringing that to everyone's attention because knowledge is power. I have never publicly accused a specific factory or company by name for replicating work. And the reason why I've never done this is because, unlike this uneducated individual, I actually have a very good understanding of the law and know that making accusations where you specifically name a company can cause litigation. What I have done in videos, and I'm talking about my manufacturing and China videos, which I'm sure this individual has an issue with, and which is why they're targeting me, is in those videos, I provide viewers with factual information about how products get copied by Chinese factories and what intellectual property risks are present both inside and outside the supply chain, and most importantly, how to protect your work from being copied. I suggest this individual who is hell-bent on targeting me, who claims they are information gathering on me, perhaps uses their time a little bit more effectively and go and educate themselves properly. Perhaps go and watch my 6-part video series on manufacturing in China, because the proof is in the pudding. These videos include a long list of legal resources and links to back up what I'm talking about, and all of it's contained in the description box of those videos. So in the video, the box opening video that this individual was so triggered by, I explained to my viewers that I personally felt that it was quite hypocritical for the reborn industry to refer to the reborn doll hobby as high end, or what Nikki Johnston, sculptor Nikki Johnston, recently publicly referred to as a luxury hobby, and then proceed to manufacture reborn kits in China. I really think that's quite hypocritical. And I explained in that video that I personally feel like manufacturing the kits in China, it cheapens the hobby. And given the amount of cheap replica reborn products that are now coming out of China, well, I think that proves my point precisely. So, do I think certain sculptors who moved their manufacturing from Germany sold out to China to make a quick buck? Well, for the most part, yes. And that is my perception. And it's also a perception that's shared by many others in this hobby. And now I'm going to explain to you why that perception has come about. Going back a decade or so ago, certain vendors and sculptors, they may need a little reminder to jog their memories about how they publicly told collectors and reborn artists about how they were planning to move their manufacturing from Germany to China because they would save a lot of money by producing their kits in China. This produced quite a lot of excitement actually in the reborn doll community, with collectors and reborn artists assuming the savings made by the sculptors would flow onto them with less expensive kits. And apparently that was not the case. I've been told this by a number of people who've been in the community for a long time, both collectors and reborn artists. And they said that's what initially caused a lot of friction. Then after production commenced in China, apparently there were a number of quality control issues with the Chinese vinyl that specifically many reborn artists were not happy about. Apparently they had to do a lot of adapting to the new vinyl. And according to what I've read and been told, it actually took many years for certain issues to be resolved. Now, I have spoken to a number of reborn artists who have, as I said, been in the industry for a long, long time, who still prefer German vinyl. I'm going to actually include a link to an article written by a well-known master artist who shared her views on Chinese vinyl all the way back in 2009. And then she provided a couple of updates over the decade preceding, still concluding that German vinyl is her favourite vinyl to work with. So as I said, I'm going to include that link in the description box. It's a really good article. Make sure you go down to the comments section because that's where she provides her updates. I think there's 2 updates over the decades, and it's interesting to see what things were fixed and what things weren't, and how her perception is that she personally prefers the German vinyl. Now, in that box opening video that just triggered this individual that's targeting me, I also explained that more recently, a reborn supply vendor had made a public statement about how much more expensive it is to manufacture kits in Germany. They stated 50% more expensive, and that in Germany only 1 belly plate could be produced per mould, whereas in China they can produce 2 belly plates, resulting in an even greater savings. They also stated that the German factory was higher in quality than most of the Chinese suppliers that they had dealt with, because they had dealt with 5 factories in total. So you can clearly see where this is all going. I don't make grand sweeping statements in my videos unless I have the receipts to prove what I'm saying. So let's step this out logically with the information, the facts that we know, to see why many of us have the perception that certain sculptors have sold out to China. So let's take a look at the facts. Certain sculptors and entities have chosen to manufacture their kits in China to make 50% more money. And apparently they did not pass on those savings onto their customers. And we know this because of the statement that was made by that vendor about it costing 50% more money to manufacture in Germany. Certain sculptors chose to take the risk of relocating their manufacturing operations to a country, China, that has a long-standing, well-known reputation for replicating products and stealing intellectual property. And then coincidentally, the replica issues started after certain sculptors and entities moved their manufacturing from Germany to China. Then when the replica issue starts getting really out of hand and collectors and reborn artists start asking all the right questions, instead of obtaining proper legal advice, certain sculptors and the Reborn Doll Police gaslit others with nonsense about the Berne Convention. So let's briefly chat about the Berne Convention because it's really not that difficult to understand. The reason why the Berne Convention has limitations in China is because in China, the key issue is proof of ownership. Under the Berne Convention Agreement, individuals have what is referred to as a valid copyright, but this legally is not an enforceable copyright in China, and there's a massive difference between the two. In China, their courts, customs, and local authorities will only recognise and act upon enforceable copyrights because that is what their country's policies and laws governs them to do so. This is why it is so crucial for those sculptors who are having issues with their work being copied to use what's called the optional or voluntary copyright registration system to register their kits in China. So a copyright registration in China provides individuals with a lot more power to exercise their rights because they now have an enforceable copyright under Chinese law. A Chinese copyright registration certificate provides what is referred to as presumptive evidence, a legal record of ownership, and it includes the date and content details of the copyright work. And it can also include a photo of the product, and that actually greatly assists in the takedown of goods from Chinese e-commerce platforms and at Chinese Customs Border Control for the seizure of counterfeit goods. So, with all these facts at hand, there really isn't any wonder at all why me and many others in the reborn community have the perception that certain individuals and entities have sold out to make a quick buck in China. As for this uneducated individual targeting me, do not insult my intelligence or to the many others in this community who actually have a brain to think with. So in my case, just because I personally prefer German vinyl and can prove with receipts that the reason why certain individuals and entities chose to manufacture their kits in China as part of a cost savings exercise, this toxic troll is spreading false lies that I support replica products and appears to be information gathering to plan some kind of witch hunt to take me and others down in the community. Honestly, this level of toxic stupidity is at an all-time high. Wake up because the game is over. The silent majority are smart. They've done their research. They have all the receipts. Things have changed over the past 4 to 5 years in the reborn doll community, and what certain sculptors, and I want to make that very clear, this is not directed to all the sculptors, what certain sculptors and the Reborn Doll Police fail to realise is that the silent majority now outnumber them. There are eyes everywhere collecting evidence and all the receipts to catch them out. And the silent majority have grown tired of certain sculptors who complain each time when they release a new kit and it gets copied. And have you always noticed that it always seems to be the same repeat offenders over and over again, complaining about their hardships, acting like the victim in the problems they created? Many collectors feel like those certain sculptors are actually trying to gaslight them. Isn't it refreshing and so positive to see sculptors like Natalie Scholl come forward? She recently shared a wonderful new security system that she has introduced with her COA. I thought that was really wonderful. I'm going to chat about that in a later video. But I just thought it was very positive how she came forward, not only talk about that, but to publicly share that she's been working very closely with fellow sculptor Ebtihal Abul, who, after registering her copyrights in China, when her kits were starting to be copied in China, she was able to use her official Chinese copyright registration document to successfully shut down all production, which included having counterfeit products taken down from all e-commerce platforms such as Amazon, AliExpress, Alibaba, and eBay. What a fabulous result. So with this public admission from two well-respected sculptors in the Reborn community, this toxic nonsense that's been playing out in the Reborn community of targeting and cyberbullying individuals, that needs to stop. There are simply no excuses now for those certain sculptors who repeatedly have their work replicated. They need to start taking responsibility for their part of the problem and go and get their work protected with the appropriate copyrights and any other intellectual property that they need to protect their work, or contracts that are needed to protect their work from being replicated. So I'll leave that for now, and at some point in the future, as I said, I'll revisit a couple more issues with some further education. So essentially, the tide has turned with the Reborn Doll Police being cancelled by the silent majority. Although collectors may not agree or support replica products, they also do not support the bullying culture from the Reborn Doll Police either. Oh, look at baby Charlotte. How precious does she look for spring? She looks scrumptious. She looks adorable. This colour yellow looks perfect on her. Oh, you are such a cutie pie. Isn't this a beautiful sculpt? I love chunky dolls. They're so adorable. Well, thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to join me here today. I hope you have a wonderful week and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.